All right.
We got a lot to talk about.
Wow. We're
So,
gonna we're gonna well, let's hold on before we start. Let's let some more people let's see if some more people roll in before we get into it.
well, first,
But
welcome to Celtics Post Game Live. The Celtics drop. I don't know. I don't even know if drop is the right word. But they do fall to the Chicago Bulls 121-99. That is probably the third worst loss of the season. 22 points after coming off of a 36-point victory.
you could
I
I would argue that this might be the worst loss season. I'd
It
I'd
was
say
tough to
that, and
watch.
I don't want to jump too quickly into it. Obviously, we are starting a little bit early. But I mean, like, do we not know what's at stake here?
I,
Like
it,
I'm just so confused because I mean, really, it falls to everyone. There was not. I mean, I give props to Kemba Walker. I I mean, I really do. He played well tonight. Um,
yeah,
but
it feels
like
like he was the only one.
we were just so lackadaisical on both sides of the ball. We really I noticed we fell into this the season mentality of just chucking up threes, not even playing with
Yeah.
no purpose.
And I feel like that's horrible. Like to watch after watching what we saw the other night in Orlando. I get the Celtics are very. I can't even say like I don't even know how to explain it. Like I know Robert Williams, and we'll get into him. I know Jaylen Brown. Having those two out is obviously such a big piece to this roster to have out, but this is the Chicago Bulls. They're a second night of a back-to-back. They were ultimately dogging it in that at the end of the third quarter, and even in the beginning of that fourth, the Celtics cut it down to 8. And then out of nowhere, the Chicago Bulls just come out and absolutely dominate. More importantly, Zach LaVine. This was an 8-point game in the fourth quarter. And Jason Tatum, as you see on your screen, struggled horrendously. Horrendously. And the big
Yeah.
problem tonight that I had with Jason Tatum was he wasn't really distributing the basketball as well. And that's rare for him because usually if he's not having a good night scoring, Rob, he's usually having a very good night distributing the basketball, getting other players good looks. Is there a concern or was this
And
just an off night?
well, I don't know if I'd consider a concern. I mean, he's been great all season.
Yeah.
And he's a superstar, and I understand, you have rough nights. And obviously, if you're listening to us right now, if you're watching us, let us know your comments. Drop down some comments. Let me know what you guys are thinking. We want to hear some of your questions. But regarding Tatum, I mean, he wasn't aggressive. He didn't look to drive. He was really passive. Um, I
He
mean, it
couldn't
is
find it,
really
right?
no, not at all. No.
Yeah, it was kind of uncomfortable to watch. To see Jason Tatum, who has just been having a fantastic season and really a good stretch that last couple of weeks. It really goes to show if you watch Jason Tatum tonight, and I'm not putting the loss on him because we played as a team horrible, but you would know as to why the Celtics lost by 22.
Yeah, and this is a
Nine
good question.
nine points.
Is Kemba Walker 100% yet? And I would argue that based off of how he's been playing recently, he is. Kemba just finished with 33 points. He's 28 in the last, or 29 now in the last 5 games. He scored 28 plus in the 4 of the last 5. I mean, he stepped up when he needs to step up, but it goes past Kemba Walker. We talked about it last after last game. The responsibility falls on everyone here, and something that I've noticed now as a consistent trend is when Robert Williams isn't playing, we're a much,
Yeah.
much worse team. The Boston Celtics are 12-2 when Robert Williams starts, right? Do
Yeah.
you realize how much of that's a significant that is a 7-game improvement when Robert Williams is starting. And obviously, he wasn't healthy. He couldn't play with turf toe.
Yeah.
But I don't
It
know.
shows. It shows.
It shows.
And,
It shows.
And especially in and we're gonna really need somebody like Robert Williams coming up here against the Miami Heat, where we have back-to-back games against the Heat, which are ultimately the two biggest games of the season. Like,
Yeah.
it all comes down to that. Missing Jaylen Brown was just huge. Obviously, Evan Fournier, it stinks because, again, he's been playing very, very well. And the Celtics, they dropped tonight where he had a great game. I think he had 14 of his 17 points in the first quarter. So that's huge for Evan Fournier. And let's kind of play like a little reverse card and ask if Evan Fournier is back to 100%, Rob.
I'd say so. He looks a little bit gassed out there, here and there, but I wouldn't necessarily say that he's not, 100%. I think he's back to 100%. I mean, he scored 17 tonight, 21 2 nights ago. So I mean, he really has been, back. I'd say 100%. But I mean, when you're playing a team like the Bulls, and it's the second night of their back-to-back, I mean, the Bulls are by no means a good team. I mean, it's I don't know. I'm a loss for words because you look at it and you just beat the Orlando Magic by 36 points, right? And maybe as a Celtics fan, you're like, all right, maybe we're finally trending, upwards again. And then they come out to a team like the Chicago Bulls who aren't even in the play-in game, and it goes. It's happened all season. It happened Oklahoma City Thunder just a week and a half ago.
And the Chicago Bulls, you say they're on the outside looking in. They play like they're really like looking in, right? Like these last two nights. First of all, these last two nights, they've come in, the Chicago Bulls, and absolutely dominated the Charlotte Hornets, and then the next night, the Boston Celtics. That's like for Chicago, that's huge for them. And yeah, I agree with Swave. Like it's too much pain.
It's pain.
When is this like
pain.
We kind of sit here and we try to be professional, but at the end of the day, like how much more painful can it get? Like I feel like our expectations are very low compared to where they were at in the beginning of this season. Like how much pain?
Yeah.
Like how much pain is it?
At the beginning of the season, we were I don't know. I mean, we were coming off of we're 2 games away from finals. We had a phenomenal bubble.
Yeah.
I mean, even go back to a year and 2 months ago, even when this season got suspended, we were playing great basketball. We we were at the top of the East, right there with the Bucks. The season gets suspended. We go to the bubble, and it. I don't. We don't. I mean, John says right now, we don't have tough players here, and I would agree with that. I didn't see any fight in anyone. I mean, I think Kemba, came out and played, a decent aggressive in terms of how aggressive he was playing, but I wouldn't necessarily think. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of
here's another.
It kind of leaves you speechless. Would you trade this year's team for Kyrie's first season team?
2018 team. I would. And hear me out. Now, based off of that's a no-brainer to me. Like that first year team played with so much, like they were so good. Where rookie Tatum, second year Brown, average. I mean, that was a fun team to watch.
But the thing is, what did that team have that this team didn't? Like that what did the 2018 team have that the Celtics don't? Depth. What would
I'd
another
say they
thing?
had
Like
some
it
depth.
clearly, it like so clearly sticks out when I ask this question, because when I tell you, you're like, your brain's gonna go like, oh damn, right. The
Ball
2018 Boston
movement, I
Celtics
don't know.
played with heart.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
played with heart. This team,
And
they don't play with heart. It seems like, again, I've said this we both have said this multiple times in the podcast. They play for themselves, Rob. It seems like it, at least. Maybe we as
yeah.
fans or media perceive it as playing for themselves, but I don't know. I mean, would you see it as that?
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. Uh, I don't know. I mean, it's really annoying too because the one thing the Boston Celtics have been all about since the Isaiah Thomas trade back in 2015 has been, if there's one thing you can expect from a Celtics team, when they go out, and they're going to play with heart and they're going to leave it all out on court.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've seen this for probably, I saw it in the second half of the San Antonio game. But other than that, I haven't seen this team really go out there and just like this response to me, that responsibility falls directly into Jason Tatum and Jalen. Because when you're a two-star player out there and their body language is pissed off and they don't get the call and they're settling for threes, that sets a tone on the game. When you're the best player on a basketball team, go out there and play.
You know what I noticed, Rob? And I said that I pointed this out to you earlier tonight. Ever since Marcus Smart had gotten suspended, I feel like his whole Marcus Smart stature, or I can't really explain it. Like I feel like he's just changed a little bit, and he hasn't been the same Marcus Smart as he's been in the past 4 years. Like he's very quiet. I don't think he's as vocal. He definitely makes hustling plays. His shots have been way, way, way off. I don't know if his focus is just not there. If Have you seen any of these struggles? I told you to keep a close eye on him in the second half. Did you notice it at all? Like he was kind of just, kind of flimsy almost. Like he wasn't himself.
Um, I haven't. I think Smart. He's probably. I'm sure he's been having. He was talked to. About. About being. Getting texts, getting ejected, and whatnot. Smart. I don't know. Maybe he's going through something off the court we don't know about. But yeah, I did and didn't see it. I don't think. To be concerned just yet. It could be if it continues. And this, I want to answer in on this question. If you're the Celtics GM, Danny Ainge, obviously, and the Celtics lose in the play-in, what do you do?
I'm taking a serious, serious look at Danny Ainge and potentially even Brad Stevens. And what have these two done with the Celtics necessarily? What have they done with these rosters? We kind of talked about Brad Stevens in the last podcast, being able to control the team, being vocal. I don't think he has been as vocal. I think he's a great coach. I just think that I think it's a player-driven league. And I'm a little bit worried if I'm Danny Ainge. I'm thinking, and you tweeted this out,
His
2 weeks
job,
ago?
his
Yeah,
job,
he's on the
yeah,
hot
his
seat.
job's
They
on the
both
line.
are on the hot seat. So if I'm Danny Ainge, I'm not thinking about the roster changes. I'm thinking about if I'm gonna have my job in October or not. As much as I love Danny Ainge, he's first and foremost he's not trader Danny. I don't want to hear this trader Danny stuff anymore. It's kind of ridiculous. And Felger and Maz of 98.5, they talk about it all the time. Like trade Danny Ainge has not made. When's the last time like Danny Ainge made like an outstanding trade? Like you kind of figure like the Isaiah Thomas trade back in 2017, the Kyrie Irving trade, which everybody just wishes that never happened. So what do you
I mean,
think?
yeah. Would you even? I wouldn't even consider the Kyrie Irving trade a good trade anymore because we gave up Crowder in the 2008 pick, which was the 6th pick, which ended up being Sexton. So obviously, that would have been nice to have. And
yeah,
considering the lack of toughness on the team with the Tice for Fournier trade, I wouldn't, just because we had to get rid of Tice because we couldn't pay him this offseason. And obviously, I think for a nice offense that Tice didn't really give us, and I think he'll step up into the lineup, step up into a bigger role.
I will
So, yeah.
say though, it is good to see Daniel Tice shine out in Chicago.
I mean,
He's been. I'm really happy for him.
He's been great.
He was never terrible in Boston. Don't get me wrong, but he was. I think he's fit in a lot more, a lot better so far in Chicago. So I hope he sticks out. What do you need
and
to
what
be
do
a finals contender?
what do we be a final contender next year? Well, I'll tell you what. Next year, I mean, honestly, I don't even think when we're right around the near the trade deadline. I think it was the roster, but we got Fournier, who's really looked good recently, and Rob Will looks good, and Neesmith looks good. So it's like I wouldn't necessarily it's a roster thing we need to do. I think it's just like we got to have a off season. I couldn't tell you. I don't know what we need to do. Like straight, I'm more focused on what's happening this season and how the Boston Celtics run in the playoffs, and because they really looked bad tonight.
Celtics need to find something to be consistent, right? Like we had that 7-game win streak, and then the games after that were just horrid. I mean, including this one, we dropped a tough game to Brooklyn. Then we dropped a tough game to who else was it? Charlotte. We got whacked. Then Oklahoma City, and then obviously
Thunder, we dropped by
tonight Chicago.
We dropped one to Chicago just to.
I was gonna say we have dropped 2 games to Chicago, and the Celtics, who have ultimately had an easy ending to the season, turns out to be one of the toughest ends to the season. So that's I just can't. It's leaving us so speechless right now. Like I don't know what else to really make of it. We're just kind of sitting here answering questions from our fans or viewers, and it's just very frustrating. What more can we talk about? It's a lot. Like it's very tough to be a Celtics fan this year. It's a lot of pain, as Swave said. Celtics, as you see on the bottom graphic, have fallen down 35 and 32, and if the Miami Heat can continue to keep the lead, the Celtics fall to the 7th seed.
Yeah.
You can't just fire the GM and then all of a sudden, there's going to be major changes. There's got to be. I don't think next year we're going to be in the finals. I don't think that you can. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. If we continue to play like this, I'm telling you right now, there's no NBA finals for a while. Like a while.
Yeah.
And I will. To to make light of this, to make light of tonight, I will say it was extremely refreshing to see Kemba Walker score back-to-back 30-point games. It was extremely refreshing.
It was, and
I get we lost. I get that, but like that's huge.
I mean, and I want to kind of backtrack on your point about the schedule, because if you, for some reason, don't listen to the podcasts, you should. On episode, I think it was 3. It was either 3 or 2. It was 3. We talked about how easy Celtics had an advantage over these teams like the Knicks, like the Hawks, like the Heat. End of the season, super. It was easy. We played the Magic, we've played the Bulls, so there was a bunch of winnable games to kind of that advantage and that cushion. So when we do play teams like the Knicks and the Heat, a loss really isn't as, it doesn't affect us as much. But when we're losing to a team like the Bulls, you got to question, like, what's the 7 series going to look like for this team?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we've seen it. We've seen 5 seeds. We've seen 4 seeds make the finals.
Last
But
year, Miami.
right now, if I'm the Celtics, I'm not thinking about making the finals. I'm thinking about getting out of the playing game or getting out of the first round. And that's and like,
it makes me
if I
laugh when
told
you
you
like
that,
when we
if I
talk
told
like
you that at
this.
the start of the year,
Yeah,
if I told you that at the start of the year, I was saying we'd
you're
be the
nuts.
7th seed. What would you
You're nuts. You're
like?
nuts. You're absolutely nuts. You don't watch basketball. You don't know what you're talking about. And then you witness it and you're like, well, you do watch basketball and you do know what you're talking about. The Boston Celtics are 7th seed. They probably, and it's getting very tough. I don't think we'll get that 4th seed. I really don't think that'll matter. Just Celtics in the 7th seed. It like that graphic, I keep seeing it, man. Like 3 games over 500 with 6 games left of the season. That's I never thought the Celtics would be at this point. Like I love the Celtics to death. They'll always be my favorite team, but that's just so painful to see. It's so odd, especially with the type of talent we have. Tatum, Brown, even Walker, Smart, Tristan Thompson. I know the other day you stressed how he could be coming up bigger in the playoffs than the regular season, which I tend to agree with. But it's just so tough to see the Celtics 3 games over 500.
And it is. It really is. It's annoying. It's frustrating. It shouldn't really. Like, I don't know. You can't really put into words just because.
I know. It's speechless.
I'm
You're
pissed. I
speechless.
really am. I'm really
Everyone is.
pissed because especially when you invest so much of your time on an everyday basis to the Boston Celtics and
Yeah.
they reward you, like, it's frustrating. But I want to get back to your point. Currently 32, 3 games over 500, which is what our worst record in, I believe, 7-8 years since the 2014 season, which is awful to say. Which is really embarrassing, honestly. But throughout this season, I will say,
Really,
we've played well past the trade deadline. I'd say we've played remotely well. Prior to trade deadline, there was a lot of injuries. There was not a lot of depth to the lineups. The fly. Matchup based. A lot of craziness, and we've had a lot of COVID protocol, health and safety games missed. And I'm not making excuses because excuses with this team. I've said it. It's accountability onto the players. If you don't follow us on Twitter, go do so. I've said it. It's accountability, and it's time to.
That's a really good question. Do you think Kemba could have a good night like tonight when Tatum is doing the same thing he usually does? Obviously, it can happen on any given night. I think that if Jason Tatum had a good night, we said this in the beginning of the post game show a little bit earlier. If Jason Tatum scored more than 9 points, the Boston Celtics would have won this game. It's just very unfortunate, as you see here. Tatum has just scored 4 first half points tonight, and the Celtics, I think, trailed by 14 at the half, 14 or 17. That's horrid. I don't think it's been a game where Kemba has had a good game along, or a high scoring game along with the Jays. So I think we're due. I definitely think we're due. Hopefully, cross our fingers, it's against either Miami or New York this season, only because those are the 3 biggest games of the year, and you'd love to see that. But what do you think, Rob?
Well,
I think it's obviously possible.
I think it's possible. I think we've seen it in the past, in last season. But I mean, I think the great part about having Kemba with the Jays, that Tatum can kind of have this rare game, and you have Kemba Walker to pick up the slack and go for 33. Now, with that said, Jaylen Brown would have helped this game most likely,
Yeah, big
right?
time.
So, when you don't have Brown, Tatum struggling and scoring just 9 points really is going to hurt you a lot. But, that's kind of the great part about having Kemba Walker. It's, they kind of give you, a little bit of help.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown has had a lot of good games against Chicago in his career, especially this year.
Why can't
Why
we
can't we
beat
beat the
bad
bad
teams?
teams?
I couldn't tell you.
Because
I couldn't tell you
because we're not that because
that one. We're
I get
bad.
no,
We're
I
the
can't
bad
say
teams. We're the bad teams.
that. uh,
Yeah.
it's been like that all season. Very inconsistent. I mean, we've beaten teams like that. We swept the season series against the Clippers. We beat the Lakers. We beat the Warriors. We beat the Suns. We beat the Bucks twice, and we lose to teams like Detroit and Chicago and Oklahoma. That's the Celtics, and we got swept against the Kings, everybody, and the Pelicans. That is the Boston Celtics for you, the 2020-2021 Boston Celtics. As much as I love them to death, as much as you, the viewer, loves them to death, at the same time, that's just who the Celtics are this season. They have
All
been
right,
unable to
Justin,
find an identity.
I got a question for you now. I got a question.
Go ahead, ask.
What?
Go ahead.
I don't think we've ever done this, which is kind of crazy. What do you think happens in the playoff? What is your prediction? Where do we go? What happens? How far?
You want me to be honest?
Yeah, dead
You want me to
honest.
be honest?
I want your honest opinion. Dead honest. All Celtics bias aside, what do you think? What do you think we do?
I think the Boston Celtics might be a first round exit.
First round. Say if we fall to this the 5 seed. Say we play the Knicks in the first round. If all go, because right now 5 seed's best situation.
Let's
That's
just
best
say
scenario.
the Celtics are not getting out of a first round without taking it maybe 6 or 7 games, no matter who they play. If they get out, it's going to be 6 or 7 games. Let me just say, I'd rather play the Knicks than the Hawks in the first round, because the Hawks are a team where when they get hot, Rob, it's very hard to stop them. This happened in the Celtics game this season. Like, it was like 72-39. The Celtics were losing 72-39 at like halftime or something like that. And that was just horrid. And Gallinari can shoot, who's a big man. John Collins can shoot. He's one of the better young big mans in the league, or power forwards. Trae Young can pull up from half court. So they're a very tough team. I'd like to stay out of, but it'd be tough to see the Celtics come out of the first round. I hope they get out of the play-in tournament, because as of tonight, if the playoffs were to start, we'd be playing in the play-in tournament. I think against the Hornets, who have given us trouble this year.
You break Tatum's leg for a finals appearance.
That's ridiculous.
Oh my God.
No, because then that's just messed up. First of all, it's messed up. Second of all, if you legitimately look into that, I know this was supposed to be a joke question, but if you legitimately look into that, if Jason Tatum breaks his leg or anything, gets seriously injured, that could affect his whole career. So that could be, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, the Celtics be missing the finals. They'd have to probably just trade him at the end of the day, like they did with Hayward, which was terrible. But I feel like
quickly talk about where I. What's up?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm speechless, dude. I got nothing. I was just gonna ramble.
I was gonna say, I got a feeling that, I don't know, history tells me that we will sort of a run, because obviously in 2019 we made a sort of a run, 5 games into the second round, and that season was kind of the same, was the link where it was just you play well and the next day you don't play well. And I know you're looking at me like I'm crazy, but
I hope you're right.
There's just a false, a false sense of hope that maybe we can get 6 games into the second round. But obviously, the Boston Celtics just got absolutely embarrassed on the road to Chicago Bulls, 121-99, and words. I mean, I really am, and I think a lot of Celtics fans are.
Well, 2 days ago, we were in this seat talking about a Celtics win, and the Knicks were down 24-12 against the Nuggets. Well, they're down 24-12 now against the Phoenix Suns. And then the Heat are up 8 with 2 minutes left, and the Hornets are up 10 with 30 seconds left. So ultimately, a very tough night.
Don't
even
tell me
though,
that. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that.
Don't tell you what. Oh, yeah, I know.
Don't tell me
Celtics
that,
are hurting
man.
themselves at the end of the
The
day.
Knicks are
Celtics
see,
are
like
hurting
this is what I'm
themselves.
saying. Is like this is my point was that
No, we're
the
not talking.
Knicks are
No,
gonna
stop,
drop
stop, 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 stop,
dropping
stop, stop, stop,
games,
stop,
and
stop,
yet
stop,
the
stop, stop, stop,
Celtics
stop,
are.
stop, stop. We're not talking about the Knicks again. We are
Oh
not.
my
We can't.
god!
How many times
Oh,
did we talk about this? We cannot
if there
talk
was
about.
one word,
We've spent a good 64% of the what was it? The post game show talking about the Knicks. Ray Grant Williams won a 10 to 9. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'd say a solid 7.
0.
He
No,
no
no,
no.
no.
He did not play as bad.
Oh
He did
no, no,
not.
no, 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 no. You're right.
Look,
You're right. You're
look.
right. You're right. You
He
know,
was
you're
he as much as you dislike Grant Williams, I thought he played particularly
no, yeah. He
well.
played well
But you got to
tonight.
look.
Yeah, he had a good night. He had a good
I
night.
I and this goes to show you how important Robert Williams is, Rob. And in a more serious and professional note, Brad Stevens struggled to really replace Robert Williams. You saw Brad go with Grant, Luke Cornett, Jabari Parker, and Taco Fall. That's 4 center/power forwards: Grant Williams, Luke Cornett, Jabari Parker, and Taco Fall. That's everything.
Cornette saw the court for maybe a half a quarter of basketball. I mean, Cornette. I was expecting to see a lot of Cornette too.
He played 10. He played 10 minutes. He played a lot in the first half, not really in the second half, which surprised me because I thought that Cornette didn't play too bad. But you could tell tonight Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics were missing Robert Williams a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah, and I've said it. The Celtics are a on the court.
What value does Taco Fall add to this roster? Taco Fall adds an 8-foot, 300-pound machine that just absolutely cannot rebound a basketball. I love Taco Fall. I think he needs more time down in Maine.
He's a locker room guy. That's what he adds.
Well, it kind of stinks on his, like, in Taco Fall's defense, right? Last year, the Celtics needed Taco Fall because of the bubble. The two-way players could play in the playoffs. Celtics were shorthanded. They needed Taco in case of injury. And then this year, where the Maine Red Claws dropped out of the season. They didn't play. So Taco Fall obviously missed a lot of time down there and a lot of development. And he hasn't really seen anything but garbage time this season. I mean, there's been a couple times where he's been, like tonight, desperately thrown into the game. We've seen it against the Bulls tonight. Obviously, we've seen it against Philly, and we saw it against the Bucks. That's tough for Taco Fall to go up against guys like Joel Embiid, Nikola Vucevic, with a snap of a finger. To really get thrown into that. I guess in Taco's defense, that's very tough, Rob.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, he's a guy that everyone loves. He's a great locker room presence. He has a potential to maybe get a role player position later on, but he doesn't add anything that's going to help us more. A blowout win. He's a guy that checks in when you're up by 20 with 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
As of right now, maybe it changes down the road. With that being said, we are wrapping up here. The Boston Celtics did fall to the Chicago Bulls 1-99 yet again. A very disappointing fashion. Kemba Walker led the way for the Celtics with 33 points. And the Boston Celtics will play back at the Garden at 1 o'clock on Sunday. That's a huge game here. Before we close out, Justin, what are the Celtics going to do in that Miami game to really get back?
Well, I'm looking at this. It's a 1 p.m. game. in all seriousness, I'm not even making a joke out of this. The Celtics have absolutely been horrid in afternoon games. I don't know if it's just a coincidence where it's every afternoon game we just play terrible. Obviously, you're going to need Jaylen Brown. You're going to need every single guy in this roster to play. It's a big one at home. This little 2-game mini series this weekend could determine the tiebreaker. So obviously a big one. Rob, we also have a podcast to shoot. It should be coming out either Sunday or Monday, correct?
Sunday. Yeah, Sunday at
yes, Sunday
12 o'clock. That's our scheduled time. Obviously, this week was a little bit different. I was quarantined due to COVID, so it was delayed. Follow us on Twitter if you do want on the podcast when it gets released and whatnot. But yeah, every Sunday at 12 o'clock we release our.
And that should be a particularly busy day because as of right now, we plan to do a post-game show for the Miami games. So podcast coming out Sunday as well as a post-game show. So we'll have you covered. The Celtics fall 121-99 against the Chicago Bulls. Kemba Walker, 33 points. Evan Fournier, 17, but Jason Tatum only 9 in the Celtics defeat. I'm Justin Lowe. That's Rob. We got a podcast coming out Sunday. Go listen to it. Thank you so much for joining. Celtics need a big one here Sunday, 1 p.m. tip at the Garden. Peace.
Thanks for watching.
Smart backing his way down. Confidence in Aaron Nesmith.
It's amazing. It's amazing how confident he's become over a period of 2 weeks.
The guys are making tough shots. A lot of energy in this building.
Quick catch and release, and he just continues to shine. Nesmith.
I love it.
Tatum finds the open man.
Makes the bucket. Yeah, this game is amazing.
It's everybody's. I can't remember last time somebody missed. Smart. Fakes the three. Takes it.
Good tip. There he is. Aaron Nesmith.
Strong offensive board. Williams. Nesmith knocks it down. Pritchard crosses over.